of business research, and we're going to specifically be talking about research design today. So as you guys know, research design is basically designing your research. It's outlining or mapping a plan or strategy for you to conduct the research. And what it does is that it spells out the basic strategies that you're going to use to develop evidence that is accurate, that is measurable, and that is interpretable, which we can then draw conclusions from. And the research design itself deals with matters such as selecting participants, preparing for data collection, etc. So the purposes of research design are twofold. First, it's to provide answers to research questions, and then it's to control variance. And what do I mean by controlling variance? It's making sure that the independent variable manipulation is the only difference between the conditions. As you guys know, let's talk about a science experiment. You have group 1 and you have group 2. They all have to have the exact same characteristics, and the only variable between one and the other has to be, let's say if we're testing out a new pill, one is taking the actual new pill that is being tested and the other one is taking a placebo. And that is going to be the only variable that changes from one group to another. What are the characteristics for good research design? First, it has to be free of bias. We have to be very objective and when we are designing our research. It has to be very clear. We can't be leading to confusion or anything. Everything has to be very clear. We have to be able to control all external variables. And it has to have, we have to make sure that it is statistically correct, or that the statistics that we are going to use in order to test our hypotheses are being structured in the correct way. So when we think of research design itself, we can see that there are two main types, which are quantitative and which are qualitative. You guys already know the difference between quantitative, it's based on numbers, and qualitative is based on qualities. When we look at quantitative research, we can see experimental research, which involves manipulating conditions and studying effects. We can see surveys, everybody knows what a survey is, which basically helps us via testing a very large number of population that are in part of our research design or part of our the population that we want to test. We can create or conclude specific findings, and this is done through survey research. Then, as part of quantitative research, we've also got correlational research, which involves the study of a relationship between variables within a single group. And usually it's also called causal relationship research, because many times it tests cause and effect, but it doesn't always have to be causal relationships. When we look at qualitative, more quality-based research, we can see, for example, ethnographic research, where it concentrates on being able to define or profile a number of characteristics via the use of observation and interviews. And this kind of research attempts to respond questions such as how well, how much, how efficient, attitudes, opinion, etc. Again, it's quality. It's looking for quality. Case studies. This is something that you guys have done here at SSBR, where we actually take a specific group or a specific company. In our case at SSBR, we study businesses. So we take a specific business organization and we do a case study to analyze in detail that specific company and draw conclusions, and in order to be able to make decisions and forecasts for the future. This is the same thing. This can also be done for groups, for individuals, etc. Then, of course, historical research, it's self-explanatory. It researches the past. We are studying some aspect of the past. And I've added another one here, which is action research. And this is very much used in the medical field. used by practitioners in order for them to be able to improve their medical practice. So when we look at generalities or general research type, it's important for us to consider the different methodologies that we have. And when we know that we can categorize them as qualitative and as quantitative, but then they can also fall within one or more general research categories. And these are descriptives, associational, and intervention type studies. Descriptive is the name suggests it itself. It's descriptive. It attempts to describe a specific situation or a specific aspect or a specific question, where in descriptive research, we want to first define the problem or what has led to the situation. We want to be able to analyze and determine characteristics. We want to be able to see applications, methods. We want to have as many examples as possible. We want to be able to analyze and assess advantages, disadvantages, etc. Basically, descriptive research attempts to describe and, let's say, paint a picture in a very detailed way of a specific problem, issue, or state of affairs. What can we think of in descriptive research? In biology, for example, a variety of plant and animal species are meticulously described, and information is categorized into useful categories. The animal kingdom, that could be a kind of classification done based on descriptive research. For example, in education, the most common descriptive methodology that is used is the survey. When you are, for example, taking all of the findings and summarizing all of the characteristics and putting it into one category. Okay, well, we have found that in the United States, men over the age of 30 all prefer to use shaving cream, for example. This is descriptive research at its core. So what do we have to think about in terms of pros and cons? Descriptive research is great, but sometimes it doesn't go far enough in order to be able to describe or in order to be able to paint as full a picture as researchers need, so that we can acquire a very clear understanding of the situation at hand. Then we also have associational research. Associational research is basically that. It's testing and association. It investigates the relationship between two groups or two variables, etc. And correlational and causal comparative, as we discussed previously, is actually one of the most commonly used methodologies of associational research. What can we see? For example, I like this this comic because it's very descriptive. And basically, these two men are looking here at a photo or an X-ray, and they think that they're coming up with a great conclusion. One says, "Everybody who went to the moon has eaten chicken," and the other one responds and said, "Good grief, chicken makes you go to the moon." This is associational, correlational research at its best. And you can study many, many different kinds of relationships between achievement and attitudes, for example, or between the childhood experiences that one had and what have they achieved or how have they become as an adult, or between the characteristics of the teacher and a student's specific achievement, for example. So here, and this is a great map of this kind of correlational design, research design, where we want to be able to determine if a student's interest in the class is related to where they sit in the class and the course that they are receiving. We want to know if the student's motivation will change, or if the interest will change, or if the intelligence will change depending on whether we sit them in the front or the back of the class, or whether we give them a 90 or a 65. So here we have, in order to test this category, we will see where they sit in the class, we will see the course grade, and we will see how these two correlate. Okay, so this would be correlational research design, which is part of associational research. What can we see in terms of pros and cons for associational research? Associational studies are also, just as the case with the other type that we just saw now, is that they also are not able to describe, they have the same situation as descriptive research, where they are not able to satisfy and paint a full picture, or allow the researcher to actually do something, do something to actually influence or change the outcome. It's researchers want to be able to determine interest and achievements in order to be able to fully understand the situation. So there may be something that we are studying in correlational research, but there may be a third factor that is attributing to that result, which we are not knowing about. And since as researchers in associational research, you cannot alter anything or include a variable, it's difficult to be able to test outcomes. Before I continue with the next slide and begin on the new topic, I'm going to take a break and I will be back in just a few minutes.